Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Now, first and foremost, the last video I had done was on Liverpool's starting 11 going into 25-26. What would it look like? Who are the players? Who are the departures? I spoke about all of those in the video. Liverpool are going to win the league this season. And that video did quite well. And I know a lot of you guys enjoyed that video. I got a load of love from speaking about what Liverpool may look like next season. So I thought to myself, you know what? The closest kind of challengers to Liverpool this season have been Arsenal. Arsenal are going to finish second in the league. They are going to come stronger, and they're linked with quite a few players that Liverpool also won. So how about I do a video on what Arsenal's team will look like in 25-26? What will their starting 11 look like? Who are the players they're linked with? Who could leave the club? So many different questions. And we're going to speak about all of those in the video. I also like to say, guys, thank you very much for supporting the channel. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And I'm like 30 subs away, less than 30 now, to 400 subs. Can we do it? Earlier than I expected. I said 3 months, but you guys are making it seem like it's going to happen tomorrow. But thank you as ever for the support. But guys, let's get into it. Let's get into what Arsenal's team might look like in 25-26. So, Arsenal are a team which need a revamp. They do need a few additions. They need somebody in their team that can score 30 goals a season. They need somebody that can control the midfield properly. And I think you add those two kind of players into Arsenal's team, whoever they could be. And I think you can see two of those behind me and a left winger. We'll get onto that. But I think more importantly, a centre forward and a number 6 that can control the game. Arsenal are going to be challenging again. What will it look like if they get that striker, that midfielder that controls the tempo, that striker that's able to score the 25, 30 goals that City have with Haaland, Liverpool have with Mo Salah, and Forest have with Chris Wood this season, and Newcastle have with Isak, Chelsea have with Palmer. Arsenal don't have that kind of striker. They have Saka, but can you really rely on Bukayo Saka, especially now after coming back from injury? I'm not too sure. But let's kind of take a look at some of the players that Arsenal have been linked with. And I would like to start with the midfield player that they've been heavily linked with. And I think this is the most reliable source that you can kind of find in the world of transfers of Fabrizio Romano himself. And this was quite a while ago. So I don't know where this kind of deal's at now in terms of its status. But as you can see here, Fabrizio Romano put out a tweet in, let me find the date for you, in January the 14th to be exact. And he had said, Arsenal are in advanced talks to sign Martin Zubimendi for the summer of 2025. So that's the summer transfer window approaching. Negotiations are already underway with the player side as positive talks have taken place behind the scenes, as revealed by Sami Mokabel. I think he was the first to break the story. Obviously, Romano is that kind of, he puts the final touches on things and he kind of gives everyone full confirmation. Key steps still needed. Arsenal plan to trigger his £16 million release clause, euros that is. Now, Zubimendi was probably one of those players that's been wanted by every single top club in Europe. I'm talking about Bayern Munich. I'm talking about Liverpool. I'm talking about Real Madrid. I'm talking about Barcelona. I'm talking about Arsenal. And he's turned them all down in the past, showing his concrete loyalty to Real Sociedad. And he was the player that Liverpool were so heavily linked with in the summer. Everybody was talking about Martin Zubimendi to Liverpool. What can they do if they bring a player that can control the midfield? And Arne Slot identified Martin Zubimendi as his number 1 target. And there were so many rumors about, will he join Liverpool? And eventually it was reported that he wanted to stay at Sociedad. And now you fast forward maybe 4 or 5 months later, we're in January now. We're currently in March, but heading to April. But in January, Romano puts a tweet like this out, and it kind of puts things into perspective. Maybe Zubimendi regrets his decision. Maybe he's thinking, I should have taken that Liverpool move. I'd probably have a Premier League title on my name. I'd probably play in he would have played in the Champions League and maybe would have gone a bit further if we had to play like him in midfield. But the fact that he is wanted by so many different football clubs, top clubs, not just clubs that are, you know, up and coming in terms of their progression. I'm talking about Arsenal, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. These all clubs win trophies and compete for the trophies, I should rather say as well. And they want a player like him to revamp the midfield, because Martin Zubimendi, his ability to dictate a game is at a very, very high level. His progressive passing from midfield is at a very, very high level. His ability and his awareness on the pitch is at a very, very high level. And his ability to control a game, like dictating a game, controlling a game, is at a very, very high level. And I keep going back to the game, the Euros final, that second half he put out when Rodri went off and he came on. It looked like there was no difference in player. And maybe that's Spain's style of play. It's possession-based, you know, winning the ball up back high, but possession-based, you know, team, which Arsenal are. And you can make concrete similarities to Spain and Arsenal because they play a possession brand of football. Arsenal play a similar style. They like to win the ball up high, like every top team does, and eventually that led to Spain winning the European Championships. And having a player like Zubimendi gives Arsenal so many options, because I think they will lose Thomas Partey in the summer. There's question marks on the future of Jorginho. Will he be offered a new contract extension? I don't know yet, but his contract is expiring in the summer. Thomas Partey, like I said before, is probably on his way out as well of Arsenal. Declan Rice has played a lot as a progressive 8 this season rather than in a pivot, but more further forward than Partey as a box crasher. So are we really going to see that Declan Rice moved into a number 6? I don't quite see it. It is an option. Arsenal could move Rice into number 6 and, you know, buy a number 8, but I just don't see that happening. I think Arteta wants complete control in his midfield, and having the likes of Odegaard in there that gives you somewhat of control and progressive passes from deeper areas. Somebody can score a goal from midfield, along with the box crashing abilities of Declan Rice and the running power of Rice, and then you add in the control ability of Martin Zubimendi. It gives Arsenal a real stamp on the midfield. And obviously Lewis Skelly can play in midfield. He's been playing left back this season. You've got Ethan Nwaneri that can play in there. You've got Mikel Merino that can play in there. So many different options for Arsenal. I know Timber can do a job in midfield as well. Ben White can do a job in midfield as well. So many different options for Arsenal. But if they want to seriously challenge next season for Premier League titles and win trophies, they need one of the best midfielders probably on the market today in Martin Zubimendi. And it looks likely, judging, I'll get the tweet back up for you, and it looks likely from the tweet that we're reading here, that deal looks very, very advanced. There's obviously been no kind of further additions by Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein or any kind of journalist on this story, but this looks like to me that it's kind of been checked off and put to one side, and that Martin Zubimendi would be an Arsenal player in the summer. And going by what I said before, Partey and Jorginho leaving and bringing somebody of the ilk of Martin Zubimendi, it really makes Arsenal's midfield very, very strong and gives them quite a few options as well to play different styles. But possession style play, somebody that can control a game, this is your man. And I think Arsenal have done really, really well to get this deal done, which obviously looks like it's going to be done, according to Fabrizio Romano. Now, we tick off Martin Zubimendi from the Arsenal midfield. So that deal, let's put that to one side. There are also 2 positions that Arsenal have been heavily, heavily linked with in this season, in the summer as well. A lot of talks about this kind of player, not only for Arsenal, but for many, many clubs, including Liverpool. And of course, he is a man that scored many, many goals, and I spoke about him on the last video as well, in the Liverpool video. I've spoken about him many, many times on X, on TikTok, about the brilliance of this centre forward, the striker that can score from any position, a striker that's good in the air, left foot, right foot. He's got it all. Pace. He's dangerous, and he scores against every team. Any top team you put him against, he scores against. Liverpool, Man United, City, Arsenal. He scored against them all. And that man is none other than, I think you might have guessed it, he's not in the graphic behind me, is Alexander Isak. Now, I reported on this. I didn't report on this. I, shared some news with you about what Liverpool's team might be looking like next season. But another club that Fabrizio Romano did mention that Alexander Isak could go to is Arsenal, and it reads Arsenal and Newcastle, either Newcastle, Arsenal and Liverpool are pushing to sign Alexander Isak from Newcastle. Now, again, this is on his YouTube. There's been no kind of concrete identification whether he will join Arsenal or Liverpool. All that's happened is saying Arsenal and Liverpool are in contact with the people close to the player. They are pushing. Both clubs are pushing to sign Isak from Newcastle, so they obviously know that his price, and it will cost in excess of 150 million if that is what's being reported by lots of journalists and lots of people close to Newcastle. And if Arsenal want to win this Premier League title, if they want to compete for this Premier League title next season, like what they did with Declan Rice, and it put a stomp on their midfield, and he's paid 100 million to West Ham to bring him in, they need to do the same for Alexander Isak. Because I put a tweet out yesterday, and Mark Goldbridge did the same thing, but I got the kind of idea from him, and he said, whoever out of Arsenal and Liverpool sign Alexander Isak wins the Premier League title. And that's how important I think this is, because obviously we know Salah and his contract situation. We're going to put that to one side. Arsenal don't have a number 9 that scores 25, 30 goals a season. Havertz can do a job. He got 15 goals, I think, last season in the Premier League. I think, top of my head, by the way. Gabriel Jesus can't keep fit. And Havertz was also signed to play in the midfield. And obviously Arteta, I think, quickly realised that, I've made an error of judgment here. I don't know, but that's what it looked like to me, because Havertz hardly played midfield. After that, moved him to the central striker, and he had a run this time last year where he was scoring goals against Chelsea, against Nottingham Forest. He scored against Newcastle, scored against a load of teams. Did Kai Havertz. And of course, Arsenal are in for a striker, and this is not the only striker that's been, talked about to go to Arsenal. There's obviously been talks about Šeško, and Ekitike has been on the market as well. Gyökeres has been mentioned quite a few times, but the most concrete one by a lot of journalists, and obviously the best one and the most reliable, is Fabrizio Romano, especially with transfer news. And he says Liverpool and Arsenal are pushing for Alexander Isak. And if Arsenal get this deal done, that's Bukayo Saka and Alexander Isak, both that score. Well, Saka gets 15, 20 a season, for example, and he got 15, 16 last season. You now got a man that scores 20 league goals easily in the Premier League. That's with 2 players, almost 50 goals. You're getting to 50 goals, because I think Saka will score 20 goals and Isak will hit 25 in the league. You're nearly hitting 50 goals in the league. It's absurd. It's quite absurd. And you add in the likes of, Martinelli that can do a job there, Havertz, that's another 20 probably goals between them. That's almost 70 goals just with the front line. And that's very, very similar to what Liverpool had with Salah, Mane, Firmino, probably the last trio we saw score a number of goals in this Premier League. And if Arsenal do this deal, if Arsenal sign Isak, they will be in serious business, because he is the best striker available in the market, in my opinion, in Europe. And whoever gets him wins the Premier League title, because Arsenal have had injuries this season, and I think is hindered their progress. And I think the title race would be a lot closer if Arsenal had, Havertz and Saka and Martinelli all available for the whole season. And I'm sure that a lot of people disagree, but I think Liverpool have got this lead because of their excellence, but also because of the decline of Arsenal and City. And that's obviously, there's context to both why that's happened to City and Arsenal. City have had Rodri and decline in form. Arsenal have also had a load of injuries and a decline in form. But I think it would have been a lot closer if Arsenal had, especially Bukayo Saka, available for the last 3 months or so. He last played in December. But to get Isak, they're in business. Now, one more player, and probably a player that's been on Arsenal fans' lips for quite some time. And, I'm a big fan of this player. He lit up the European Championships in the summer, won the European Championships. Everyone thought he might get a move, has been linked with Barcelona. But a man who you can see behind me next to Martin Zubimendi, I like this kind of Spanish kind of vibe I got going on behind me with Zubimendi and Nico Williams. Obviously, Sociedad for Zubimendi and Nico Williams at Bilbao. And that man, obviously, it's Nico Williams that gave it away. Now, he is a player that's been heavily, again, linked with Arsenal. And obviously, they have quite a few issues on that left-hand side. Martinelli's not been able to live up to the standards of, what he had in 22-23 when Arsenal came really close to winning the Premier League title. They did last season, but I thought the year before that they looked a much more fluid, even though they accumulated more points last year. I think they had the fully fit squad available last season and still didn't win the league. And I know they got 2-3 more points last season, but the year before that they had Saliba out for quite some games and they only had 4 points less, which shows to me that, they were better the year before because you had Saliba in there. I think they probably win the Premier League title. But you look at look at Martinelli. He's not been able to live up to those heights. He got 15, 16 goals in the league that year. He wasn't able to hit the same heights last season. Obviously, this season, he's not been able to do the same. And he doesn't look the same player to me. He looks lacking in confidence. He doesn't look as dangerous as what he did previously. And I think that's why the leg to this Nico Williams deal has come about. And I think Arteta being Spanish probably helps. Nico Williams being Spanish obviously helps, and him being at a club that are probably not competing for trophies. I'm talking about the Champions League and the Premier League, Spanish Cups, etc. Copa del Rey, that's not really my concern at the moment. But he is not going to win a league title with Athletic Bilbao, and he might do with Arsenal. And obviously him being Spanish helps, and obviously now he's got the taste of winning European glory with Spain. I'm sure that will be on his mind as well. And there was an article posted by Christian Falk again, and he reported that Nico Williams is closer to an Arsenal transfer than Bayern. Obviously, Bayern have also been linked with Nico Williams, and obviously this was posted 2 days ago, March the 21st, 2025. So only 2 days ago. So probably one of the newest reports on the Nico Williams saga to Arsenal. Now, do I think Arsenal will get this deal done? I think if he asked to leave Athletic Bilbao, I think the most likely club he will be going to is Arsenal. Obviously, there's been talks about Barcelona, but I think they're looking at Luis Diaz, and I think they've got Rafinha, they've got Yamal, they've got Dani Olmo. I don't think they really need to sign Nico Williams, and I think they've kind of moved away from that. If I'm led to believe that, I've not really seen any Nico Williams to Barcelona links. I've seen more Diaz and etc. etc. I've seen Isak to Barcelona as well. But if Nico Williams leaves Bilbao this summer, I think there's only one club that he's going to be heading towards, and I think that is Arsenal. And I think, again, 15 goals, I think he has the ability to get 15 goals a season in the Premier League. And you might be saying he hasn't got that in La Liga, but I think he is more than capable. I've seen enough of him to know that put him in a team which create a lot more chances than what he probably gets at Bilbao, in a team that plays on the front foot in a possession-dominated side that are challenging for trophies with better players. He will score goals. And you've now got a front line of Nico Williams, Alexander Isak, and Bukayo Saka. That is a title-winning front three. And they do that deal, Arsenal. I don't think it's going to cost a lot. I think he does have a release clause in his contract, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about the numbers of his release clause, but I think he has got a release clause in his contract, if I am not mistaken. But I have assembled, just like I did with Liverpool, I have assembled the Arsenal team and what it could look like next season. But first, I will show you what Arsenal's team looks like, their strongest 11 this season. Well, obviously, all these players are not played, but I would like to show you what Arsenal's team looks like this season with probably all their players available. So, as you can see on my screen here, let me zoom in because I don't think that you guys can see that. You guys can see that very, very well. Okay, that's a bit too much, sorry. Okay. Okay, so that works. So you've got David Raya in goal. Sorry, you probably can't see the rest of David Raya name, but that is David Raya. You've got Miles Lewis-Skelly. You can also put Calafiori in there, Zinchenko, whoever you kind of fancy. Gabriel, but I think this is Arsenal's strongest 11 for the players they have available now. Gabriel, Saliba, Timber. You can also put Ben White in there. Rice, Partey, Odegaard, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. And it's up to you whether you want to put Trossard in on the left or you want to put Jesus at striker. Completely up to you. That is Arsenal's strongest 11 with the crop of players they have now. That's not the 11 they've used the most this season because obviously Saka's had his injuries. Obviously, we've had Ben White play there as well. He's had his injuries. Calafiori's had his injuries. So, you know what? Probably, yeah. Maybe you put Trossard in for Martinelli. That's probably about it. Now, like I said before, load of question marks, especially on that front three and the midfield area. And I would like to show you if Arsenal do, well, Nico Williams, Isak, and Zubimendi, this is what their team might look like come the start of 25-26. And that is this team right here. Got David Ryan goal, Miles Lewis-Skelly, like I said, you can put Calafiori in there, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard, Saka, Isak, and Williams. Now, you look at the difference between this team and this team. You can see there's a new striker, there's a new left winger, there's a new number 6. And I personally believe if Arsenal go into next season with this 11, they will win the Premier League title. Now, this might not happen. They might not sign Isak. And look, I'm going to change it for you guys now. This might be Benjamin Šeško, for example. They might not sign Nico Williams. Zubimendi, I think that's probably the only difference that I'd say that Arsenal 11 could look like. I think Nico Williams, they will sign Nico Williams. I think they will sign Martin Zubimendi. The only question mark is whether it's Šeško or Alexander Isak. But we have to go on reports that we've been shown. And the player they want is Alexander Isak. Shout out Football, by the way. I said it last time, but this makes things easier. They have this 11 Arsenal with the likes of Trossard, Martinelli, Havertz. You know, they've got midfield options, like I said before. You can put Calafiori in at left back if you want as well. Ethan Nwaneri. That is an 11 that wins the Premier League title for me. They've got a solid back four with options like Ben White, and I'm sure they're going to bring a defender in potentially. They've got Calafiori, Lewis-Skelly, Zinchenko, Rice, Odegaard. Nwaneri can play in midfield. Zubimendi now. Mikel Merino, Nico Williams, Isak, Saka. Nwaneri can play in attack as well. Havertz, Martinelli, a load of options they have. Like I said before, if Arsenal go into this season, I'll repeat it myself, if Arsenal go into the season next year with this starting 11, they will win the Premier League title. Whether they have this 11 or not is a different conversation. But we're talking about rumours. We're talking about speculation. We're talking about all the players Arsenal have been linked with. And the players I showed you and the players behind me, as you can see there, are the players that they've been linked with the most. Nico Williams, Zubimendi, Alexander Isak / Šeško. But guys, that's what I think Arsenal's... No, not what I think. That's what Arsenal's starting 11 could look like in 25-26. My opinion is irrelevant. Your opinions are what matters. So get your comments in below. Am I way after money? Or do you think Arsenal's team looks like that? Or you might think something different. Get your comments in below, guys. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care of yourselves.